In the bustling city of New York, where towering skyscrapers touched the clouds and the sound of ambition echoed on every street corner, there stood a prestigious music academy known as the Montgomery School of Arts. The academy was renowned for shaping the future of the country's most talented musicians, singers, and performers. Parents with influence and wealth sent their children there, not just for the quality of teaching, but for the prestige of being associated with the institution. Inside its marble halls, music filled every room, and the air carried an unmistakable sense of privilege. Among the students was Emily Montgomery, a young girl of 16, whose father was a well-known businessman and philanthropist. Emily had been raised in a world of abundance, surrounded by grand pianos, private tutors, and opportunities many could only dream of. She was considered the star pupil of the academy, praised by teachers and admired by her peers. Though her talent was undeniable, she sometimes lacked the humility to recognize that true artistry was born from struggle, passion, and sacrifice. To her, the academy was not only a place of learning, but also a stage to showcase her family's wealth and status. Every afternoon, Emily would practice on the academy's prized Steinway grand piano, a majestic instrument polished to perfection. She played complicated sonatas and elaborate concertos, impressing anyone who walked by. Yet, despite her technical precision, her music often felt rehearsed, almost mechanical, as though something essential was missing. Her teachers encouraged her to dig deeper, to find the soul of the music, but Emily didn't understand what that meant. She believed talent was enough, that perfection lay in flawless execution. Meanwhile, hidden in the background, there was Mr. Harris, the academy's janitor. He was a man in his early 60s, his gray hair tucked under a faded cap, his posture bent slightly from years of hard labor. He wore simple clothes, his uniform often dusted with chalk or streaked with polish from cleaning the floors. To the students, he was invisible, a silent figure sweeping hallways and wiping windows. Most of them never bothered to learn his name, much less speak to him. But Mr. Harris carried within him a story that few could imagine. Decades ago, in a small town in the Midwest, Mr. Harris had been a young boy with dreams as large as Emily's world. His family couldn't afford much, but his mother worked as a seamstress, and his father labored in a steel mill. One evening, while helping his mother deliver clothes to a neighbor's house, Harris heard a piano for the first time. The sound captivated him instantly. From then on, whenever he had a chance, he would sneak into the local church to practice on their old, creaky piano. He learned by ear, imitating hymns and experimenting with melodies until music became his language. Life, however, was not kind to him. College was never an option, as he had to work to support his family. He married young, raised children, and set aside his dreams of becoming a musician. He found work as a janitor, a stable job that kept food on the table but drained the fire of his aspirations. Still, the music never left him. Even after decades, his fingers itched whenever he passed by a piano. He had melodies trapped in his soul, waiting for a chance to be heard. Every evening, when the academy emptied and silence filled the halls, Mr. Harris would sometimes pause during his cleaning rounds. Alone in the practice rooms, he would wipe the dust off the piano keys, his heart racing as though touching something sacred. At times, he couldn't resist. He would sit on the bench and let his fingers wander, carefully at first, then passionately, as if releasing years of suppressed emotion. The walls of the empty hall became his audience, and the polished floors echoed with melodies born not of wealth or privilege, but of lived experience. On one particular evening, Emily had forgotten her notebook in the practice room after a long day of rehearsals. Irritated with herself, she returned to the academy just as the sun dipped below the horizon, casting golden light through the tall windows. She expected to find the hall empty, but as she opened the door, a sound unlike any she had ever heard stopped her in her tracks. It wasn't a classical piece she recognized, nor was it played with mechanical perfection. Instead, it was raw, heartfelt, and achingly beautiful. Emily froze, her hand still on the doorknob, as she watched the unlikely scene unfold. There on a piano sat Mr. Harris, the janitor. His head was slightly bowed, his eyes closed, his fingers gliding effortlessly across the keys. Each note carried a weight of longing and resilience, painting a picture of a life filled with hardships and quiet dreams. The melody rose and fell with such emotion that Emily felt her chest tighten. She realized for the first time that music was not just about technical mastery. It was about storytelling. Her instinct was to interrupt, to remind him that the piano belonged to her, that this was her space. But something held her back. She remained silent, standing in the shadows, listening. Every chord seemed to draw her deeper into his world. The janitor wasn't just playing the piano, he was conversing with it, speaking truths that words could never express. Emily felt small, humbled, almost ashamed of how she had treated music as nothing more than a performance tool. When Mr. Harris finally finished, the last note lingered in the air like a whisper refusing to fade. He opened his eyes slowly and saw Emily standing there. Shock washed over his face. He quickly stood up, muttering apologies, his voice trembling with embarrassment. I'm sorry, Miss Emily. I shouldn't have touched the piano. I was just—" He stopped, unable to find the words, his hands trembling as he stepped away from the bench. Emily didn't know what to say at first. A part of her wanted to assert authority, to remind him of his place. But the greater part of her was overwhelmed by what she had just witnessed. For the first time in her young life, she felt she had experienced real music, music that came from the heart, not from hours of rehearsed scales or the pressure of living up to expectations. She took a step forward, her voice quiet but steady, and said, "Can you play that again?" Mr. Harris